Welcome to the Iolani School podcast. I'm John Tamanaha, Director of Interactive Media and a frequent morning visitor to the faculty lounge, where coffee is usually accompanied by good conversation. This podcast project is an attempt to share that sort of experience with a larger audience. This is our fourth episode as we continue to visit with a wide variety of people associated to Iolani School to hear their personal stories. This time we sat down with AP psychology teacher Ms. Ernette Au back on the first day of the 2018-19 school year, which is her 44th at Iolani. Now the full-time teacher with the most seniority on campus, she was her usual open and honest self on several topics. She also mentioned so many names from the past and present that you'll likely know a few of the people who have made a difference in her life and career. Thanks for downloading. Please enjoy. So sometimes when I talk about this podcast project that we're starting, it's I say, we're talking to different people from the Iolani community and try to get into their heads and see what makes them tick. But I'm talking to the AP psychology teacher, so a little nervous here.
No reason to be nervous. I'm just analyzing you as we go along.
Yeah. We can do a show afterwards and you can talk about me. What is it? Let's start with, we're going to touch on a lot of subjects, but let's start with psychology. You started as and we're going to talk about this, a kindergarten teacher, and I taught a lot of things and mathematics in the upper school. But then, as I understand it, you started teaching psychology because you loved it. What do you love so much about psychology?
Psychology was my major, and I just kind of ended up into psychology because I needed a major. But I love knowing about people, learning about why people tick, learning about why people behave the way they do, and how to help them.
So I don't think there's anybody better to ask this question than the AP psychology teacher, somebody who's taught here for going on 44 years. Question being, how has the behavior of Iolani school students changed over the years?
I think that the students are less able to follow oral directions because they're so used to their social media. Oh. They're used to texting, emailing, but not really picking up the phone to call and talk to people.
Or write, or those sorts of things? They're still passing letters in class, or
no? They
text
each
other.
They text each other. I think that the fact that we have such good technology here has actually made it a little bit more difficult in the classroom because we need to make sure that they're actually listening to us and not emailing or texting. But they have to have their iPads out because we put the information on the iPads. We just have to trust that they're following the lecture and taking notes with their iPad. But also, I think a really big thing is they're not used to talking to each other face-to-face or on the phone. It's and you lose a lot of emotions when you just text. You can miscommunicate a lot.
So do you give them any advice on how to kind of be better? Is there anything that you...
We do a lot of group work in my class, and they do improve from day one, which is like today, till the end. I also give them tips on how they could actually project what they want to. But basically, they learn from each other. When there's a group up there, they observe and they listen. They learn it in my class, and they do learn it in speech, and maybe other classes. A lot of other classes have a lot of discussion. But when they go out into their real world at home, a lot of them will spend a lot of time on their computers. Like, instead of coming to talk to me one-on-one, which would probably help a lot, they decide to text or email. which you lose a lot. You lose a lot of understanding.
Are there any positive qualities in their behavior that have remained consistent with the Iolani student over the decades that you've been here?
There are a lot, because I wouldn't be here if there weren't any positive qualities. They're leaders. They've become better leaders, I think, as they grow older because of the courses that we offer them. A lot of the courses have to do with discussion and presentations. And in my class, I have a lot of those. And it'll help them. I tell them that it'll help them in the business world, because no matter what job you have, even if you have your own business, you still need to communicate with others. So yes, it has become more positive in classes. Are you talking about behavior itself?
Yeah.
I guess I would say they're very caring people. They learn from their teachers, I think. There's a lot of teachers here who have taught them to be not just respectful, but I guess to care, because the teachers care about them. I see it more in their personalities, in that they know how to show appreciation. Not so much in the classroom, but on a one-on-one. There's a lot of positive. The leadership parts of like a fair, Key Club, and the organizations that I'm in have kept me here, because these are the kids that have brought so much to Iolani. My stomach's growling. And have, I guess, gone out into the world. What helps me is they've gone out into the world to really become successes. And that's very rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of the kids that you think we're not going to get that far have transcended much farther than they thought they could.
I don't know if I'd throw myself into that boat or not, but
I would.
Yeah.
I didn't know you as a
I'm back here.
high school, but you're here.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, is when I see the 5 out of how many got hired this year that are alumni were my students. And it's really fulfilling to be their colleagues.
Wow. 5 of the people that were in that faculty meeting the other day last week
Yes.
were your students?
Mm-hmm. 2 teach kindergarten, which I never thought they would. But that to me is very fulfilling.
Yeah, it must be. That's awesome.
I mean, sometimes I say, what, you really want to be a teacher? But when they come back and they still want to teach, then you know that maybe you've been positive in some ways for their future.
I happened to be in Tyler Yamamoto's classroom yesterday morning in his first few minutes of being a kindergarten teacher here.
Ooh.
And he was awesome.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, what do I know about being a kindergarten teacher? I mean, but my daughter was down in that very classroom, Kay Mackay. But just observing him and how he was interacting with the kids on their very first day, it was special. It was really cool to see.
Tyler and Aaron are just a wonderful team. I had Aaron also. And they're excellent teachers. And I'm just so proud of them, really.
Yeah, you should be. Can you explain your role with the fair?
Okay, my role began in 2002 when 2 students asked me to be the chair or the, faculty advisor. At that time, it was only 4 students that I had to overlook. And those 2 students decided that they were going to expand this. And so the job has expanded more. But working with the students, the 4 co-chairs, and the other 60 students has been really rewarding. You see them start, I guess, in 9th grade to be recruited, very excited, ready to go. in 10th grade, they lose a little bit of motivation because they're called shadows, which means they just stand back and kind of watch. Some divisions do things, but mostly they need to just watch. And
Maybe we need a title change there.
right. As you, I guess, as you watch more, you might become a little more apprehensive because you think, wow, am I going to be able to do all of that the next year? But most people will go on, and as soon as the fair ends when they're 10th graders, they suddenly become leaders or try to be better leaders because they know they're in charge. But an example, we have a ritual at 11 o'clock p.m. at the end of one fair. We have a bonding where the shadows become co-chairs and the co-chairs become advisors, and it became a pretty big thing.
Yeah, I look at that as being a really kind of cool experience to oversee and witness, because basically what we're talking about here is students coming in as apprentice, then becoming the leader, and then becoming the mentor. Take me through what that is.
Okay, the reason why I've stayed in it so long is because you watch them develop as leaders. You help them to organize. They have to work within organizational realms because otherwise the fair wouldn't happen.
There's no need to name names if you're not comfortable with that, but is there a story about a certain student that kind of gradually blossomed over the years that you've witnessed?
There's quite a few, actually. I'll use the name Spencer Kim.
Okay.
When Spencer was in the 9th grade, we already know that Spencer is Superman. He was
council,
not
captain of the football team,
right.
All of those things that he.
And when I recently saw him, he's going to apply for medical school. But Spencer did not start that way. Spencer started as a very quiet person who kind of sat back and observed a lot. This is where his intelligence comes in. His ability to observe and then apply it the next year was incredible. In the 10th grade, he sat back and watched, even if he could have run the whole fair himself.
Wow.
Then, of course, in the 11th grade, as a junior, even if he could, he made sure that the team was the team of co-chairs. And as an advisor, he ran the TV publicity. But there's actually one more example that I have, now that I think of it. The example is Michael Hackler. In 2007, he graduated in 2008, but in 2007, he ran the fair almost by himself.
Wow. And then Michael Hackler, a couple of weeks ago, he works at First Hawaiian Bank now, right?
Yes.
And they were in the student center helping the boarding students get situated with their, if they needed some banking set up and accounts with their families and whatnot. So yet another one of these awesome alums that comes back and provides service back to his alma mater.
Right. And I have to say that he came back from USC for the next 2 fairs, just for the fair weekend, to help us.
Well, that's what we expect from USC graduates, such as myself.
Oh, no.
Little plug there. You've also worked with students and classes in a different role that I'm interested in kind of delving into. It's as class advisor. How many times have you done that?
I've been class advisor 4 times.
4 times. And my the thing that I'm interested in, especially talking to you, is classes have personalities, I think. When I went to school here, our class of 87 had a distinct personality that was different than the class of 86, I think, but I'm in it, right?
You're
and
right.
Different than the class of 88. But you were on the outside, and 4 times you were with them and guided them through their high school years. Tell me about that aspect, like classes have personalities.
Okay, so the first class that I had was 1990, which is Sherry Tapper.
Okay.
That name.
Who's now the alumni relations
Right.
manager?
And that name comes to my mind because Shari actually helped plan everything, just like she's doing now.
Wow.
And it was a really strong leadership group. And they were very gung-ho and actually very respectful. Then the next class was 1994. And I was a co-advisor at that time with Pam Fujinaka. The class was very headstrong, but not always very cooperative.
I know a few from the class of 94.
Right.
Coach Dean Shimamoto comes to mind.
Exactly. Thank you. There was a leadership group that wasn't always very positive, but I have kept in touch with a lot of the 1994 kids, and they're all pretty successful now. In fact, I have a lot of their kids in my classes now.
Can I ask you what you were like in high school?
I was not a good student.
Really?
I loved the social life, and I loved being in clubs, and of course, had boyfriends that actually that was my social life. I had a lot of friends, a lot of girlfriends, but interestingly enough, I don't have any contact with any of them now. I guess in high school I was very active with athletics. I played 4 sports.
Yeah,
Not well.
I heard little birdie told me that you're still a very strong tennis player.
I wouldn't consider me strong, but that wasn't one of my sports back then. It was
Well, now it's a recreational sport for you.
right,
Yeah.
and I still enjoy it, but I wish I could still play the other sports.
So what you said makes sense to me because you're still involved here, and maybe now this is your high school, so to speak. This is your realm, and you're involved in clubs and active, and Key Club and the fair as we mentioned, and you're one of those all-in teachers, I like to say, who, if there's faculty follies assembly, Ernette Au is out there. If there's other sorts of things for the faculty to get involved in, and I think the students appreciate that.
I don't know if we
wholeheartedly.
always appreciate it.
But that sounds like who you are now, that having fun, but still, you went to college, you study psychology, you're giving back in that realm.
Now, I have to say one of the things that's kept me here is chaperoning. I love chaperoning senior camp, senior things.
Dances, proms.
Dances are fine.
I've
I
done that
like
a couple
collecting the
times.
money.
It's not the easiest thing to do.
Oh, no, you just have to not care that they're going to dislike you if you discipline. Because Iolani students are actually very different. We're really lucky because they don't hold a grudge.
Oh, really? Oh,
I
okay.
don't think they do.
Next time I chaperone a dance, I'll be more forceful. Thank you for giving me a little window into that. Well, sometimes it's like you walk through that dance floor and you want to. Yeah. My move is just to kind of tap them on the shoulder and give them a look.
You have to go farther.
Your move is what?
To just separate them. And a good line is, I know your mother. Because most of the time I do. Because the parents keep very active here. You get to know most of the parents. And that's another thing that I actually can be a positive or a negative, is there is parental pressure. In my case, mostly positive, and I'm lucky. But I know I have friends that it becomes kind of negative in some ways. But I think I'm very lucky. The kids have kept me young.
You, what was the path to coming to Iolani School for you? I mean, you mentioned you weren't a good student in high school, and probably you weren't thinking you'd be a teacher.
The teaching is not my passion, never was my passion, but I have not regretted anything about it. The way I came into teaching, I actually had many jobs in the outside world. I call it the outside world, mostly in personnel, human resource management. And I had a family member who I don't really want to say, who it was, who coerced me into at least trying teaching. And then I stopped for a while because my first job was in Watts, California, and it was a tough job. And then my husband went to Harvard Business School, so I followed him there. And Mr. Kuhn from Iolani School came to interview people, and he interviewed me. So that's actually how I got to Iolani. It was because we were going to move home the next year.
You were recruited.
I was recruited, but I think there was something behind that.
Interesting.
But I have never regretted it.
What do you love about teaching?
There's a lot of things I love about teaching. I can say that the paperwork is daunting, but being up in front of the class is a lot of fun, and I actually like relating to them one-on-one a lot too. I like the way at Iolani, they're forgiving. And you can make a lot of mistakes, and they're forgiving, and they want to learn. Most of them want to learn. But I don't think I could be a student like they are. It's a tough one.
Yeah. I'm thinking that you're a very rare teacher in the sense that you taught kindergarten and you've taught seniors. I mean, you're truly the K-12 teacher here.
Right. And I actually started before kindergarten. The summer before kindergarten is called the pre-K on the farm program, and I taught 11 years of that. And I've had the children who started with me then in maybe 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. One of the classes I had 6 times.
Wow.
So that's very fulfilling to watch them grow. This year is the last class that I taught in pre-kindergarten.
What does that feel like to watch them grow? You'll see them go on to do different things even after this, but what's that like?
It's a very fulfilling feeling to see that as little children, they have developed into real people, matured people. And a lot of them have come to try and be fair co-chairs. In fact, one year, Trevor Tamura's year, all 4 of them, 3 out of the 4 were in my pre-kindergarten class, and they became co-chairs of the fair. And to watch them grow and graduate and tell me what colleges they're going to, it's very fulfilling.
And then it goes beyond that. Through social media, I see that you maintain contact with students. You having lunches and dinners, and you're seeing them as adults.
Right.
I mean that's just kind of a rare look. And
well, I feel very fortunate because they keep in touch with me. I'll probably never seek anybody out unless they have a job that I see in the paper and I congratulate them somehow. But they have been so good about keeping in touch and saying, let's make this a tradition. Each time we come home, our group will take you, to dinner. And I don't know what I've done to be so lucky because it's one of the things that's kept me here, really.
Yeah, it's that sense of appreciation. Earlier I equated appreciation to being in faculty follies, and that's part of it. But there's obviously a sense of that, maybe even deeper than that, obviously, that students come to appreciate you in a very special way.
I think Iolani students are very good about showing appreciation later in life. Mm-hmm. Just an example is just recently I helped at a conference, and one of the vendors was a 2001 graduate, Travis McGoy, and he called me over. He said, "Do you remember me?" And it was so great to see that he's at the top of his business, and that he could converse so well. And yes, I do remember him on the baseball field very vividly. That's the kind of thing that that keeps me going, I think. I have said at the beginning of every year, I'm going to retire this year. This is the last year. And I even said it this year. But it's very hard to leave a place that has nice people, administration, faculty, and students, mostly the students, I guess.
There was another honor that showed maybe the highest level of appreciation in 2009 when the yearbook was dedicated to you. The first podcast that I did was with Stevie Roberts, who this past year had the yearbook dedicated to him, and it was, you were there, I'm sure. You were sitting in the dedicatee seats. Always really special day, that yearbook service awards assembly, and I asked Stevie if he was surprised, and he was. Were you surprised, and how did that day unfold for you?
I was very surprised, and I actually didn't hear my name because as soon as they said psychology, that class somehow I was very close to, were cheering so loud that I didn't hear my name. So Miss Tomiyasu, one of my best friends here, said, "Did you know that that's you?" And so then I saw my parents, who at that time my dad was alive, who were holding a lei, and I thought, okay, maybe this is true. Because every year you kind of think, well, that would be really nice, but you don't believe it's ever going to happen to you. Mm. So that was such a great feeling, and yes, it was one of the biggest things that happened to me at Iolani.
In Stevie's case, we have the video department videoing it, but I'm 2009. I guess we don't have footage of that, but it's cool to watch that unfold in the person's head, and you can kind of see the mind and the whole psychology of it unfolding. It's fascinating. Another honor. There's so many, but this past year, you lead the faculty out alongside Elsie Yoshimura as kind of the, I don't know, how should we say it? It's longevity, right?
Seniority of full-time faculty.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's that like? That commencement to be at the front of the line, and I'm honored to see myself on the first page at this point, but you're at the front of the line, and that's the big day here at the school.
And to tell you the truth, I don't say it often, but it was something that I really looked forward to. When they started, maybe it was about 3 years ago or 4 years ago, is when they changed it. Yeah. And it was really, it was something I looked forward to. And I always looked forward to being the number one full-time teacher, which I am now because Elsie's part-time. So, yeah, it means a lot to me, and some people would probably laugh at it, so I don't say it to many people.
But it is really cool. You're following in the footsteps of people like Jack Kay and Georgianne Derby and people that have, nearly for over 50 years of service at this school.
I know everyone tells me to make it to 50 years, but I really seriously don't think I'm going to make it to 50 years. But Georgianne Derby was my first teammate in kindergarten.
Oh, yeah.
So I learned a lot from her. I learned a lot from the teachers like Margot Johnson.
Yeah, Mrs. Derby still comes back for summer school, and
I know.
We're going to get her in here at some point. She's it's fascinating. She's active in social media and tells stories about the little kids in her class and what they say, and everybody's urging her to write a book, so maybe she doesn't write a book, but she can come in the podcast room here and tell her stories.
She's funny. She will tell a lot of stories.
Grandkids keeping you busy outside of work? I mean, you're still very busy here, but I imagine that's...
I wish that they were here to keep me busier, but this summer I spent about 4 weeks with them, and they're great. Of course, everyone thinks they have the best grandchildren, and they are. They've grown up a lot, and they're the love of my life.
I have to, I just wonder, with all of the things that we're talking about and how many things you're involved in, And we've only scratched the surface, really. I mean, there's not enough time. But how do you have this much to give? You know, you're one person.
I don't know. I think if you like what you're doing, I'm not saying that it's all rosy, and there are stressful times, but it's the kids that keep you there. Like several times, we didn't have faculty advisors for Key Club, and so Key Club would normally have disbanded. But it's the kids who love the service, who love to give, and for Fair, it's because it's an ohana. And I guess for teaching, I love the teaching part of it. And there's so much about it that I don't even think about it sometimes. If I did stop and think about it, I probably wouldn't do it.
Community service and volunteerism, is that special to you as well?
As a child and as a teenager, I didn't do any community service. I didn't even know what Key Club was at that time. And I guess I have to say, as much as sometimes it takes up a lot of my time, I'm very grateful and lucky that I got into that, because now I can do the community service that I never did before. It's fulfilling to see how children, 9th grade, so young, really want to give that much, and especially at Iolani, because they have so much, but they still want to give. So I guess that's what keeps me in that. I don't know, I just don't stop and think about it at times.
I spent 22 years away from this school after I graduated, and I came back, and it's different, as you said. I agree. We could talk for hours about how it's different and how it's the same, but it is the same in one sense, I think, is that there's just a beauty to it. There's a feeling. You know, how do you agree, and how would you describe that? I mean, I'm asking a question I can't answer. So, I mean, it's admittedly tough, but
if I were to describe Iolani, I would say that it's growing. It's an emerging school. It's always trying to improve and keep up with the sign of the times. And so, therefore, if you sent your child to Iolani, they would grow no matter how much you tried to keep them from growing. They would grow socially, academically, maybe athletically. It gives them a chance to the opportunities. I would say that's the biggest thing, is that Iolani gives students and teachers the opportunity to grow to transcend beyond what they could do. I never thought I could ever be an AP teacher, but Iolani gave me the opportunity to teach any subject I wanted to, and to teach the AP. They believed in me. I think the students here at Iolani know that we believe in them. So that's probably how I would talk to a parent who is trying to see whether they want their child at Iolani.
yeah, and it's people too. It's people with huge hearts like you that care, and then there's, as you mentioned, there's an appreciation that comes back. You mentioned the AP psychology class. We should mention that. I mean, it's 4 sections. It's grown tremendously, right?
Yeah, it was 5 until this year, because they needed a math teacher. I went back to math, and I'm still learning again how to teach 9th graders after teaching 97 12th graders last year. But AP psychology, what I was telling the kids today when I introduced it, is it'll teach you how to cope with any of your stressors, not all, but some of your stressors, and how to grow up in life and mature socially, not just academically. I told them that, yes, the score might mean something to me, But what means more to me is if you enjoy the class and remember the concepts so that you can use it in your real life situations. That's why I keep teaching it.
In doing a bit of research for this interview, I looked back at my senior yearbook, 1987. And it was interesting. I'm going to show this to Taylor Wong. They afforded the faculty an opportunity, and it goes right by their name and their college information, but for a favorite saying. It's just fascinating, and I read a bunch of them. Do you remember what your favorite saying was 32 years ago?
No, I don't.
I will let you know. It was, live for the present, don't dwell on the past.
Oh, well, that's good. Actually, I use that. I still use that. I think what Iolani has helped me do is to grow more in my faith. I've met students like Mark Ma, who became my godson, who have taught me more about having faith even through stressful times. And I think that's where I've grown here at Iolani. More belief in myself, more belief in my faith, and I guess more belief in walk the talk. If you're going to say that you believe in God, then walk the talk.
And Mark Ma, to fill in people who don't know, was a graduate of this school, went to Nevada, Reno, football player, tragically passed away on a lake when he and some friends and teammates were out on the lake and the weather changed and people got into trouble. And Mark went to help them, and he did not survive, but the rest did. Kind of maybe talk a little bit about Mark, since we brought him up and he's a special person, and I think a lot of us kind of gather some strength and inspiration from his life.
Right. He inspired a lot of younger people. He himself felt that playing football on the college level was actually quite tough. He worked really hard for everything that he had athletically. I think he was naturally very smart because he was able to pass all of his classes, including AP Psychology, without really having to put extra work into it. He had a lot of faith, but he had a lot of doubt about himself and his abilities, but he overcame those because of his faith.
That experience that you had with Mark Ma, a student, is that kind of the thing that would keep you from not retiring? That having to have these different experiences and know students, and they go on and do things, and you can learn from them and those sorts of things. Is that what kind of keeps you here?
No, because I didn't really have that relationship with him as the religious relationship with him until after he graduated. And when he was running into stressful times, he called me, and I started to help him for the 2 years that he was at Nevada. So what keeps me here is probably the people who are here. I think like you, I have to say, people who are positive with me, who, I look forward to coming to school because there's people here who I guess are friendly, and there are some that aren't, but people who are friendly and actually appreciate the heart I put into things.
You've got your fellow faculty members, but also staff that I've seen you guys interact. That's kind of, to me, that looks like your high school friends that you've been friends with for eons, and you guys hang out and enjoy each other's company. And
I think from since I've been here, I think the fair has helped that, because from the fair is where I acquired my social group, like Auntie Sue Lee, the college counseling secretary, and Kulini Nava. People like that have actually our interaction outside of school has helped me to find something other than just school, take my mind away from, just the everyday, more academic things.
Well, before we end this podcast, you should probably do a little promo for the upcoming Iolani Fair.
The Iolani Fair for 2019 is on April 12th and 13th, and the theme is Barnyard Bash. We have a lot of new things, and we are keying in on the animals. We have a lot of new foods coming up, and we're going to decorate a lot. It's for the children. We started the themes for young people last year with Dino Days. So we are hoping to be able to bring in a lot of little children who will really enjoy themselves a lot. Please come to the fair.
And all the proceeds support student travel initiatives here at the school. And it's always a lot of fun. Great food. And Ike Fernandez rides and those homemade games and all of the incredible man hours that go into it make it even more special. And thanks to you and many others and all the volunteers. So save the date, April 12th and 13th, Friday and Saturday, Barnyard Bash. Ernette Au, thanks for the time. Really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for the honor of being able to say everything that I've been thinking for the last 44 years.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's what this is all about. Thanks so much. Once again, thanks to our audio engineer, Kings Kalohelani, there on the other side of the window, doing a great job. And we'll be back with you for another podcast very soon.